There we go.
Yeah, now we're live. Now you should be shared.
Oh yeah, it's not shared.
There you go.
Okay. And I saw that we have, is Craig joining us remotely?
Yes.
Okay. And Craig, can you hear us? I want to make sure he's in.
Don't have him muted.
Maybe he's not there.
He went from muted to unmuted, but I know he's talking because his thing is moving.
Okay. Well, then that means he can hear us.
Yeah, we can.
You just can't hear him, but that's okay. All right. It is 7:05, Wednesday, September 21st, a call to order a regular meeting of the City Helotes Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors. We will now go into our, we have a call to order. We do have a quorum, or only let it be shown on the record that our only director that's missing is Mr. Joel Lutz. And we have our city council liaison, Mr. Craig Sanders, has joined us remotely. So we'll now go into open session. Citizens to be heard. Do we have any citizens to be heard signed up?
No, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll go ahead and go to our consent agenda. So all consent agenda items listed below are considered routine by EDC staff and are intended to be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless the director requests it, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Do we have any requests to remove any items from the consent agenda? Okay, so with no items being removed, I will now entertain a motion to approve items 3 through 7 on the consent agenda.
Mr. President, I move that we approve consent agenda items 3 through 7.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have Ms. Benavides on the second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, motion passes. Okay, now we'll move on to committee reports. So we have two updates. First, we'll go into the executive committee meeting. And I'm happy to, Bill's got the notes, and I think on executive committee, I'm happy for anybody that wants to give an update. I'm happy to give the update. There you go. John, if you want to give the update, it doesn't matter to me. Sure. Yeah. So we did have an executive committee meeting on Wednesday, September the 7th at 5:30. It was myself, Mr. John Couldowski, our Vice President, Melody Cooper, our Secretary, and with staff, we had Glenn Goolsby, our Interim Executive Director. So basically, we gave an update on the posting for the Executive Director position and the direction that was given out of the hiring committee that we then followed up with our special meeting, I want to say a week later, that we went over those same items. Glenn actually gave us a nice update report on a management services agreement that we have with the City of Helotes, getting some input from the executive committee on some wording for the management services agreement. And as I understand that, Glenn, is that management service agreement going to City Council tomorrow? Yes. Okay, so that item that we discussed will be going to City Council tomorrow for their approval. We did go through some 22-23 budget items that were pretty much the budget has been reviewed by everybody and been set. We just covered some specific items on there, but with no changes to the actual budget. Some retail property status. Glenn gave us a good update on some of the retail properties that he's currently actively working on, trying to get tenants in, and some updates on some of the vacant properties as well. So it was good to get an update of new businesses coming in, possible new business looking at coming to Helotes. And so kind of following along with our strategic work plan of trying to entice some new businesses and also looking for possibly some more vacant land outside of what we've looked at already. So maybe we'll have some more opportunities. Glenn's working hard at it to try to find those out there for us. And then and also an update on the e-commerce program as far as some new signees that we've had for the e-commerce. and possibilities going forward. So it was a good meeting. You know, I wouldn't say that we had any groundbreaking news on it, but definitely it was nice to get some refreshing new news of what's at least going on the retail market here in Helotes. And we adjourned about an hour and 15 minutes later on 6:45. Thank you very much, Melody, for the notes.
You bet.
Okay, now we can take an update from Finance Committee.
Finance Committee doesn't have much of anything remarkable to report either. We've gone over the typical monthly expenses and cleared all that up and got our questions answered. And that was really the only thing. We'd already done the budget, so we didn't have to tinker with that at all in this last month.
Okay, very good. Yes, having the budget done, I know that's the big thing that we go through in August into September is getting our fiscal year budgets done. I think we all feel good about the budget. I think we broke that thing down as about as well as we could. So I'm very happy with it, and I think we're gonna have our work cut out for us going into next year. Okay, so now we'll move into items for individual consideration for audience purposes. These are items that are heard individually that are possibly discussed in action taken on for different items that the EDC is dealing with. So we'll move on to item number 10. Discussion of an action on a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Helotes Economic Development Corporation approving appropriations for the fiscal year ending 2023, maintenance and operating interest in sinking and capital budgets for fiscal year ending 2023. Proposed EDC budgets include economic development projects as defined by Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 505, Type B corporations, and authorizing the interim executive director to take all necessary steps to implement the provisions of this resolution, incorporating recitals, providing for severability, and adopting an effective date. So Glenn, why don't you just give us a quick synopsis of what this motion is enacting or could enact by its approval or possibly disapproval.
Right, this one is just approving the budget that we've now seen. I believe this is our fourth time reviewing it.
Yes.
Since the initial presentation. We have not made any changes either through the Finance Committee, Executive Committee, or at the staff level since the last two presentations. I know the year-to-date on this one has been updated as of last week, so you can see where our revenues are right now. Revenues tend to show a little bit higher than what we'll actually have at the end because of the 380 agreement. We capture those revenues and they don't request reimbursement until every 3 months. So every
Right.
quarter.
So it shows up here, but it's in 3 months, it's gonna
Yes,
take a big,
I believe.
take a big hit.
And that one is also technically 2 months in the rear because of the reporting of the comptroller.
Gotcha.
So we can actually send payment until November.
Okay. All right. Well, very good. So this is approval of the budget is really the action item we have here. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion for discussion of or action on resolution of the Board of Directors for approval of the City of Helotes economic appropriations for the fiscal year ending 2023.
I move to approve consent agenda item number 10 as written.
Okay, very good. That's the easy one. All right. We have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Motion passes. Good. All right, so we'll move on to item number 11, approval of resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Helotes Economic Development Corporation approving an interlocal agreement between the City of Helotes and the HEDC, authorizing the interim executive director to take all necessary steps to implement the provisions of this resolution, incorporating recitals, providing for severability, and adopting an effective date. So, Glenn, why don't you give us a brief presentation on the interlocal agreement?
Absolutely, because this one is slightly different than what we've done in the last couple of years. I just felt it was a little cleaner switching it up from a management services agreement now that the structure is kind of separated between the city and EDC. And did an interlocal agreement and then really went through and worked with Marion to identify majority of the expectations for both organizations, what we need to provide the city and what the city needs to provide us. So there was a summary included in the packet as well as the primary document. The services to be provided by the EDC. If you want me to go through those, I can. Review information packets for targeted industries at the discretion of EDC staff, participate in pre-development meetings and provide guidance to prospective developments, request economic development staff to regularly conduct trend and market analysis for targeted industries and economic development opportunities, maintain mutually beneficial relationships with the Helotes City Council and regional entities engaged in economic development, work closely with city to establish long-term economic development based on community strengths and assets, targeted opportunities that match up well with assets and overall vision, work with city staff, planning and zoning commissions, and city council to discuss economic development uses for sites within the city, develop an annual strategic plan to establish goals for the HEDC and seek approval from city council, develop means for Helotes to incentivize and encourage restaurant, retail, office, and entertainment space in order to have more balanced tax base and land use outcome. For the purpose of business retention and expansion in the city, assist local chamber or business association and meet with local firms in order to identify issues or needs and facilitate access to resources that can help. Allocate resources toward marketing the city to visitors, annually attend economic development training and conferences, meet monthly or as necessary to carry the business of the HEDC. That's kind of more for the board.
Right.
And then any request to utilize HED resources not outlined in this agreement, the city administrator or city council shall request in writing to the HEDC executive director for such assistance will then be presented to the board of directors. Now, the list of services to be provided by the city. Administrative services, accounting services, including recording all revenues and expenditures of the HEDC, issuing checks for payment of debt authorized by the HEDC, deposit of all HEDC funds provided to the city by the HEDC, funds that go directly to the city, preparation of monthly unaudited financial reports and investment reports that reflect HEDC's financial condition, retention of external auditor to include HEDC financials in the city's annual external audit, personnel services. We're very detailed in this, right? Offering HEDC employees health coverage under the city's health benefit plan approved by the city council for all city employees, administer the health benefits for HEDC employees, provide payroll services to all HEDC employees, including but not limited to process payroll, payroll deduction, payroll tax statements, and end-of-year W-2 tax reports. Offer the retirement benefits through TMRS ICMA for HEDC employees. And then professional services to include the following: provide support staff to actively manage HEDC social media accounts, prepare quarterly reports to social media engagement, assist with monitoring and updating HEDC websites, assist with developing and distributing email communications to business owners, and provide IT services to include monitoring and software for electronic devices. All for the low annual fee of $30,000.
All right. I guess the big question I'll have in Glenn is just, I know the wording's changed from interlocal or from managed service to interlocal. Just any big changes that we had from previous to now?
So the previous agreement didn't really outline in detail
Right.
Okay.
the services to be.
So this is just a lot more detailed.
It really is.
Yeah.
It was a lot more, it was just generic.
Yeah.
And then sit down first with Frank to get some examples of what other cities and EDCs have. And then we just kind of tweaked it to our needs. So this is kind of a typical agreement that he's used in two EDCs, Cibolo and Port Arthur, I think.
I know Cibolo, I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it's a great template moving forward, and thanks for the hard work. I know that's not easy coming up with all that much detail.
And the annual decrease from 36 to 30.
Right. Yeah, that's actually a big change there. It's actually, we got a lot more detail and it actually got cheaper. That's different, usually when you get more detail, it actually gets more expensive, so. Okay, so I will now entertain a motion to open up, well, really, we're at the point, if you want to open it for discussion and propose an action on item number 11. Actually, right now, it doesn't even have discussion, it's just for approval. So I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I will motion to approve consent agenda item number 11 as written.
I will second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. All right, number 12 is also just approval. So this is approval of the resolution of the Board of Directors, City of Helotes Economic Development Corporation approving agreement between the City of Helotes and HEDC to fund certain city events, authorizing the interim executive director to take all necessary steps to implement the provisions of the resolution incorporating recitals, providing for severability and adopting an effective date. So Glenn, again, can you give us a kind of a summary of what we had before and where we're at now and the big differences?
This one is actually a new agreement. The previous years that we've done the marketing of city events, we didn't have an agreement in place. I feel it's important to have one. Gives us a little coverage as well. Frank suggested we do an economic development agreement between the two entities. And then very similar format as the interlocal, just obviously different services. Services to be provided by HEDC. Meet with city staff to assist in event planning at the discretion of the EDC staff. Work with city staff to review and or develop marketing strategy and any request to utilize HEDC resources not outlined in the agreement. City administrator or city council shall request in writing to the HEDC executive director. Services to be provided by city. Coordinate and host at least 10 marketplace events on the first Saturday each month. Coordinate and host an annual carnival parade. Coordinate and host an annual fireworks show. Coordinate and host an annual Christmas parade. Provide funding to successfully staff each event. Utilize, this is one new thing that's in there. Utilize at least 25% of the HEDC allocated event sponsorship funds toward marketing and related expenditures of the listed events. Let's see. And this agreement is in the amount of $50,000.
Okay. So is this agreement totally new to something we never had before?
Right, it was just a
Just
transfer.
it was a transfer of money. So now we've got, again, more detail, a little bit more definition. Amount of money that we're doing this year compared to last year is the same. Yeah, it's $50,000. We just know where the $50,000 is going. Obviously, that's also one of our goals as the EDC is to support the city and in the events that obviously are generating tourism for our city. So glad that we have that definition, and we've got ways if we get new events, which we all hope we do, that we have ways of also incorporating them into sponsorship. So I think it's all good. All right. So with that, I will entertain a motion for approval of item number 12.
I move that we approve consent agenda number 12 as written.
Actually, it's an individual consideration agenda, or just agenda item number 12. It's not consent.
No.
Okay. So we have a motion for approval of item number 12 on the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. All right, so we're going to move on to the last item in our individual consideration is discussion of and action on the election of officers for the EDC Board of Directors as required by the EDC restated and amended Articles of Incorporation, Article 10, Board of Directors, including but not limited to President, Vice President, and Secretary. Okay, Glenn, what is this?
So every September, we have to put this on the agenda. It's an annual appointment, obviously done by the board as a whole for the president, vice president, and secretary at this time.
Okay, so we're going to do the, people to nominate and approve?
Correct.
All right, let's have fun. So,
Don't everyone raise your hand at once.
yeah, I would like to start, since it's easy and it's on my left, I would like to start with nomination of Miss Melody Cooper for position of secretary, if she will have it.
Yes.
All right. So now do we get to take a vote, but without Melody, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Do I get to vote on this one, by the way?
This one you have to because it has to be a quorum.
Well, you still form.
Yeah,
Without her?
I think I get a vote on election.
It's greater than 50%.
Sorry. I did count.
Yeah, we'd be all right. I think we'd still be all right without my vote.
Yeah.
Thanks.
we still have
Appreciate
one.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
so you
four.
have to vote. because you need 5 of the 7.
Oh, we need 5 of the 7. Okay, so I get to be the tiebreaker. Oh, this is gonna be tough. All right, so, do I take this just like a regular vote, all those in favor of? Is that just how it's worded right by Robert's rules? All those in favor of, electing?
I would ask if there's any discussion.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's actually probably appropriate. I'm gonna start with a discussion. Obviously, Melody does a great job. She is a great note taker. And also she's very committed to the board and shows up at a lot of different, committee meetings. And so she's been a great resource, and just her experience, I think, has spoke volumes. So that's my, vote behind Melody.
Agreed.
I agree.
Okay.
She's the best for the job.
There you go.
I would do a motion to approve her, and you get a second.
Okay. So I get to actually make the motion, don't I?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would like to make a motion to approve Miss Melody Cooper as position of Secretary of the Board of Directors of the EDC. All those in favor? Oh, I need a second.
Again,
Second.
All right. Thank you, Melissa. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Congratulations, Melody. All right, so we now will entertain a motion for the position of president and a position of vice president. Either or.
I would continue vice president if y'all would like me to.
All right, I like it. Self-nomination. It's all good.
Love that.
Yes, it's called efficiency, which I really love. All right, so I'm totally behind John on this one. He's done a great job. Definitely a good sounding board for a lot of things that we do. So, so we have, John, why don't you make a official motion? Now, can he motion for
that's
himself?
himself. Let's not, let's have someone else.
Okay, let's not. All right, I'll handle this one for John. I'll make a motion to elect Mr. John Couldowski as Vice President of the Board of Directors of the EDC.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, all those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Congratulations, John. All right, last but not least.
I'll nominate you as president.
All right.
I'll
thank-
second that.
All right, so we have, good, we'll keep this efficient too.
Yes,
All right.
Sorry, I officially motion to elect Blaine Lopez continuing president of EDC Board.
All right, good. Have a second?
I have a second.
All right, thank you, Greg. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, motion passes.
You're doing a great job.
You're doing
Yeah.
a great job.
We didn't get a chance to dote on you, I'm sorry.
No.
True.
I don't like no doting. I like to keep it simple. Actually, this is it's going very well. All right. So we're done with our individual consideration items. I think actually we got through some of the harder stuff in the special session earlier, so we can move on to our staff report. Update on attendance at Retail Live Conference. That was on September 1st.
I forgot one piece that I wanted to show you, but that's okay.
All right.
One of the big aspects of the conference is they gave you a contact quote for everyone, either who was in attendance or was planning to attend, because you get a lot of people that don't show up, honestly. And it's actual end users, so it's prospects, it's developers, it's landlord, tenant reps, everything. And it'll tell you, on the landlord side, it'll tell you which brands they represent too. So that's honestly the most valuable aspect out of the show. But the Retail Live is held every year in Austin, typically September. And it's set up different than most other conferences in the fact that it's retailers that have tables set up in an exhibit hall. And it puts all the cities, the brokers, everyone else in the community trying to lure them, going table to table like speed dating. So yeah, that part, it's kind of interesting. One of the big ones that came out of this year, last year I had approached Black Rifle Coffee Company about coming to Helotes, and there was no chance because of 2 other locations they had, and it would cannibalize their stores. This year I approached him, I said, yeah, I wish you guys could come, but I know you've got a store here and here. He said, actually, we just backed out of one off of Calabria. They didn't like the ingress egress. So there is an opportunity within the next 2 years to get on their radar. They want one in this general area. So I thought that was positive. They do a lot more retail than they do coffee, nature of their business. Their biggest challenge for Helotes is they need a property with a capacity to do double drive-through. So right now, there's no pad sites that can do it, and there's no existing facility that can offer that. So we have to wait until one of these larger tracks is willing to subdivide, or some other developer goes in and try to piece it together. But trying to work on that. Some of the other names that are approached, and I was surprised by a few on this list. Dutch Brothers, New York Pizza and Pints, Walk-Ons, Rock and Brew, Whataburger, McAllister's, Capriotti's, Vape City, Pure Magic Car Wash, Mr. Car Wash, and then Buff City Soap. The biggest surprise to me was Walk-Ons. I would say historically in San Antonio market, they have not gone in rural locations or off the main strip. I've talked with their real estate broker, and he said they're changing. The ones that they tried to put out on I-10 and
281.
or the 281 is semi-successful. The one on I-10 wasn't.
Yeah.
He said they find they need to go in places that don't have a lot of other businesses. They just get cannibalized,
Right.
honestly. So they've completely kind of reformatted their target location, and small cities being in a community with an affinity for sports or had local high schools, that's what they look for. So we check all the way down the list on their requirements, except for obviously we don't have anything existing.
Right.
And again, they're not gonna buy 6 or 10 acres. They do need 120 parking spots in a facility between, I think it's 4,500 and 6,000 square feet. So that's not unreasonable, but 120 parking spots minimum.
Wow.
A lot.
So there's opportunity. I think we could probably think of 1 or 2 sites in Helotes they could go on. It's just, we gotta work on those getting on the market. And it's a good place to sit down with brokers, and network with them, as well as some of the developers. Again, this year, heard a few comments about, well, Helotes doesn't, allow drinking, or like, not the first time it's come up this year. Luckily, at least when I hear it, we can confront that and talk about, and you have Dons and Bens, you have bars.
I know.
Restaurants.
Maybe we should
serve
put
alcohol.
on our website, Helotes does allow drinking.
Let's show them the
Our new
list.
slogan.
Yes,
Come
we allow
drink
drinking. We're not the place where you can't dance, we're not the place on foot.
Yeah.
The only other kind of negative was they felt we were a bit more challenging. I'm trying to figure out how to structure it. A bit more challenging in the permitting process than some other cities. We're not the most challenging, so that's a good thing. But they said there's some other places that make it a lot easier. But I said that's kind of what I'm here for. When you experience a problem, we try to figure it out. Sometimes it's a communication thing. Oftentimes what we find, that's the truth. It's communication. And I think what we've seen is sometimes it's the contractors or engineers that don't communicate with the owners, or they're told a story.
Yeah.
Let's just say it that way, because they're shifting blame.
Right. Yeah, if there's delays, the easy finger to point out is the city's delaying me,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So not everything is always accurate, but it gives us an opportunity to sit down and talk with them and reassure them that's what we're here for. I mean, that's our focus. We want to make sure you go through this process and you have someone fighting for you.
Yeah.
So no, it was actually a good show. It was well attended after the last 2 years. They canceled in 2020, 21. It was kind of half on attendance, and this year was kind of back in full force.
Nice. Very good. Anything on the horizon conference-wise that you got on the?
No. I think there's a EDC training, sales tax training seminar in November in Austin. It's one that I have to go to. I can send it out to everyone else. If you want to go, you can.
No thanks.
To learn more, it is like it's at least a 4-hour course. It might be a little longer, but.
Yeah. Sales tax
In a
training.
day. Well, it
Yeah,
goes through,
I'm gonna make myself busy that day.
so that- no, it goes through all the allowable expenditures of type A, type B corporations. It's put on by TML, and then kind of highlights any changes that have been made. So it's required for me every 2 years to go. And then I think the next big conference isn't until May.
But for me, I think it's important that we attend as many of these as possible. You know, we've got it kind of now in our local agreement there with the city that is actually part of what is expected of us. And so I think the more that we're going to these and more that people see us and see that, yeah, Helotes does want development. You know, we just got to stay in front of people. It's just like anything else, like any other customer, just keep on them, stay in front of them, and just try to get them excited.
Absolutely, because most of this doesn't happen overnight.
No.
You know, you get on their radar and, you know, they can kind of put you in their programming, because some of them plan 5 years
Yeah.
out. So it does take time. I don't know if I'll be able to make it. There is an interesting one, one of our brokers told me about this weekend. It's only $10 to attend it, but it's a franchise expo. So every
Yeah.
franchise looking for investors.
Yeah,
It's down at the Henry B, I think.
Henry B.
yeah, that's interesting.
Interesting, at least you could get concepts that are looking to grow and maybe do it the back way.
Yeah.
And then help find investors to build here in Helotes, but, I'm trying to see if I can work my schedule just to go see. It's
Okay.
$10, that's
Yeah, yeah, why don't you send out the date to everybody here, and that way, you know, at $10, you know, I think all of us could fit a $10
yeah.
bill to, if we had the time to do it. I'd be interested to see just what kind of franchisees are out there, and which ones would fit in with the Helotes theme. So thank you for the update. I just wanted to kind of give everybody an update on something I saw interesting at driving to College Station, Mecca, this past weekend. New Braunfels had some really nice entry signs. Not that I want to rehash about entry signs, but they're really nice entry signs, and they were in TxDOT right away. So it just got me thinking again, is there may be an opportunity to revisit that. Obviously, we can't revisit it till what they've got going is done. But I just want to put that out on the radar. That I don't know if y'all seen them, but they're nice. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. Okay. All right, well, with staff report done, that is actually the last item that we have on our agenda. So with that, it is 7:36 and we are adjourned.
Thanks.
That was,
It's not painful at all.
I know.
Yeah, wait. Very, I thought it was gonna be that warm.
Yeah, for a length this size. Well, it's, you know, what's good is a lot of